The 2025 federal election in Canada was already shaping up to be a high-stakes political drama, but recent judicial recounts have transformed it into something far more consequential, a suspense-filled cliffhanger with the potential to reshape the country's political future. Two crucial ridings, once declared victories for the Liberal Party, have now flipped in favour of the Conservatives following razor-thin recounts. These developments have thrown Prime Minister Mark Carney's already fragile minority government into a state of deep uncertainty, potentially triggering a seismic shift in the Canadian political landscape. What we are witnessing is not just a few hundred votes swinging in tightly contested ridings, it is a moment that could redefine public trust in the democratic process and alter the balance of power in Ottawa. This all comes in the aftermath of the April 2025 federal election, which from the outset was deeply contentious and politically charged. Few could have foreseen just how pivotal the recounts in two specific ridings, Kitchener-South Hespeler in Ontario and South Shore St. Margaret's in Nova Scotia, would prove to be. Initially called as Liberal wins, both ridings were subjected to judicial recounts after the margins were deemed too close to certify. The final counts told a different story. In Kitchener-South Hespeler, the Conservative candidate emerged ahead by a mere 112 votes, overturning a slim Liberal lead of fewer than 50 votes on election night. South Shore St. Margaret's was even tighter, flipping by a margin of just 93 votes. These are not just statistical footnotes, they are game changers. With these two ridings now in Conservative hands, the composition of the House of Commons has shifted just enough to make governance even more precarious for Carney's Liberals. The party was already walking a legislative tightrope, propped up by a tenuous alliance with the New Democratic Party and limited cooperation from the Bloc Québécois. Now, the loss of two additional seats significantly undermines that delicate balance. The opposition, led by Pierres and a reinvigorated Conservative Party, is emboldened, sensing not only opportunity but momentum. It's not just about gaining seats, it's about gaining narrative control, seizing the political high ground, and reinforcing doubts about the government's legitimacy. The recounts themselves have sparked serious concerns about the accuracy and integrity of the electoral process. Reports from election observers and legal teams revealed a host of troubling issues: mail-in ballots that were improperly counted, discrepancies in vote tabulation, and a startling number of ballots requiring judicial review. Elections Canada has downplayed these concerns as part of the normal course of electoral administration, but that has done little to calm growing public unease. If such mistakes could occur in these two high-profile ridings, how many others might be affected but remain unexamined? The conversation has quickly expanded from individual races to broader questions of democratic legitimacy. This growing mistrust has lit a firestorm across political and civil spheres. Inside the Liberal Party, what began as a routine legal matter has now metastasized into a full-blown crisis. The initial confidence shown by Carney's inner circle, dismissing Conservative calls for recounts as mere political theatre, has given way to damage control. The party's attempt to project calm authority is beginning to crack under the pressure. There is increasing frustration from within the Liberal caucus itself, with some members of Parliament privately expressing concern that the Prime Minister's dismissive approach to election oversight is both politically dangerous and ethically questionable. The once disciplined messaging is unraveling, replaced by panic and finger-pointing. Meanwhile, Poilievre's Conservatives are capitalizing on the moment. They argue that the recounts have vindicated their earlier warnings about election oversight and are now calling for broader investigations into the 2025 election results. Their message is resonating not only with their base but also with more moderate voices who are beginning to question whether Canada's electoral system is as foolproof as once believed. Civil society groups, independent analysts, and grassroots organizers have started demanding a more comprehensive review of the vote count nationwide. Online petitions for additional recounts are gaining traction, and the call for systemic reform is growing louder by the day. Elections Canada, for its part, has been notably restrained in its response. Its lack of detailed explanations, slow communications, and refusal to release full vote-by-vote breakdowns have only fueled suspicion. In a time when transparency is crucial to maintaining public confidence, the agency's silence is being interpreted by many as either incompetence or indifference. Its credibility, long considered a pillar of Canadian democracy, is now under serious threat. The public's trust in the institution, once taken for granted, is being tested in real time. The implications are profound. Carney's government, already struggling to maintain cohesion, is now under enormous pressure. The recounts have not only narrowed their parliamentary majority but have shaken their claim to a democratic mandate. If further recounts are triggered, and there are already rumblings of legal challenges in several other close races, the government could find itself on the brink of collapse. Another federal election, less than a year after the last, is no longer unthinkable. Within the Liberal camp, there are whispers about leadership challenges and rising doubts about whether Carney is the right figure to navigate the country through this political storm. For everyday Canadians, these developments strike at something far more fundamental than partisan allegiance. This is about trust in the fairness of elections, in the reliability of democratic institutions, and in the integrity of the political process itself. The errors and discrepancies that led to these recounts are more than just technical oversights, they are symbolic of a system that may be more fragile than many had realized. If 2 ridings can flip after judicial scrutiny, it raises an uncomfortable question: how many others were nearly as close, and how many may have been called prematurely or inaccurately? Canada is now at a crossroads. The nation must decide whether to confront these systemic flaws head-on or risk undermining the very foundations of its democracy by ignoring them. If the former path is chosen, it could lead to much-needed reform, increased transparency, and the restoration of public trust. If the latter, the result could be a lingering cloud of doubt over not only this election but future ones as well. Either outcome will have lasting implications. As the dust begins to settle on these initial recounts, one truth stands above all others: the political ground in Canada is no longer stable. Pierres and his Conservatives are rising not just in terms of seat count but in terms of political legitimacy and influence. Meanwhile, Mark Carney's Liberals are finding themselves increasingly isolated and defensive, their hold on government more tenuous by the day. This isn't just a partisan contest anymore, it's a national reckoning with the very systems Canadians rely on to ensure fair representation. The Recount saga may have started quietly, but its echoes are growing louder, reverberating through Parliament, the media, and the public consciousness. And it's far from over. With public scrutiny intensifying and the potential for additional upheavals looming, this story is still unfolding, and the next chapter could change everything.